You were looking at someone's profile. Maybe it was last night, maybe this morning, maybe 3 minutes ago. You scrolled, saw a photo, a number, an achievement, a trip, a smile, and something inside you tightened. It wasn't anger. It wasn't exactly envy. It was something quieter than that, more slippery, harder to name. It was that voice that shows up low in your chest and says, almost under its breath, "Why am I not like that?" That voice didn't shout. It never does. It whispers. And that's exactly why it's dangerous. You close the app, set your phone down, tried to think about something else. Maybe it worked for a few minutes, but it came back, because it always comes back. It doesn't matter what you did that day, how productive you were, how hard you tried. That feeling that other people are ahead, that they have more, that they've arrived somewhere you haven't reached yet, it doesn't need a trigger. It already lives inside you. And what hurts isn't the comparison itself. What hurts is what it does to you afterward. It takes the small win you had and shrinks it instantly. It takes the plan you were excited about and lets the air out of it. It takes an ordinary day, a day that could have been enough, and turns it into proof that you're falling behind. It's not an accident that you ended up here. Nobody clicks on a title like this by chance. You clicked because something in it touched something real. Something you probably don't talk about out loud, because comparison is one of the quietest struggles there is. People don't say, "I compare myself all the time and it's eating me alive inside." They say, "I'm good." And then they sit there at 11 at night, staring at someone else's life. So stay with me. What I'm going to show you here is not a list of motivational tips, not a believe in yourself wrapped in pretty words. This is about where comparison actually comes from, not from an app, not from social media, but from a part of you that was formed long before you ever had an account anywhere, a part that has a name. And when you give it a name, it starts to lose its power. 30 days. That's what I'm going to propose at the end of this video. Not a magical transformation, a training, a practice, a process. Because chronic comparison doesn't dissolve with insight. It dissolves through repetition, through choosing, day after day, a different direction. Right now, there are two kinds of people watching this. The first thinks the problem is discipline, that if they just stopped wasting time online, they'd stop comparing themselves. The second one has already tried everything, deleted the apps, taken breaks, focused on their own goals, and at first it works, for a few days, sometimes a few weeks, and then, almost without noticing, they're back in the same place, same feeling, same tightness in the chest. If you're the second person, what I'm about to say will make sense in a way that might hurt a little. Real truth usually does that. It tightens first, and only then it loosens. Take a breath. You're in the right place. Before we go into the story, I want to do something that almost never happens in a video about anxiety. I want to slow things down, not by speaking slower, but by creating a little space between you and what you're feeling. Because comparison lives in speed. It needs you to move too fast to examine it. You see the photo, the tightness hits, you're already spiraling, all in less than 2 seconds. It doesn't survive being looked at closely. It only survives when you never face it directly. So, before we continue, I want you, wherever you are right now, on your phone, with headphones, at your computer, to just notice your body for a moment. That's it. Not a breathing exercise, not meditation. Just notice. Where are you right now? What does the chair feel like? The couch, the floor under your feet? Is there tension in your right shoulder, in your jaw? Sometimes we arrive at a video like this already carrying the weight of an entire day, and we don't even realize it. I'm saying this because what comes next will require you to be a little more present than usual. Not because it's complicated, but because it's too easy to watch a video about comparison while quietly comparing yourself in the background. Reading comments, checking how many views someone else has. The irony isn't lost on anyone. You don't have to be perfect to watch this. You don't have to show up already changed. You only need one thing, the willingness to look, the willingness to see what's there, even if it's uncomfortable. That's all. The story I'm about to tell you is about someone named Raphael. Raphael isn't real. Or maybe he is. Maybe he lives in you, in me, in almost every adult who was once a child and learned, before learning almost anything else, that being enough depends on a comparison. Raphael is 32 years old. He wakes up at 6:47 on a Tuesday in March. The alarm went off at 6:30, but he stayed in bed for 17 minutes, not asleep, not fully awake. That in-between state where the mind has already started working, but the body hasn't given permission yet. He turns to the side, reaches for his phone on the nightstand. The screen lights up. 6:47, 4 notifications, a work group message. Raphael, do you think you can finish the report today? LinkedIn, Marcos Andrade added a new achievement. Instagram, Juliana Ferraz posted a new photo. He opens LinkedIn first, not because he wants to, almost by reflex, like your tongue touching a tooth that hurts. Marcos Andrade. They went to college together, graduated the same year. Raphael remembers him as average, nothing special, late on group projects sometimes. But Marcos's profile now says senior project manager. Before that, regional coordinator. Before that, operations specialist. Raphael looks at his own timeline. Analyst, mid-level analyst, senior analyst. Nothing has changed in 2 years. He closes LinkedIn, opens Instagram. Juliana posted a photo at a cafe in Lisbon. Remote work and coffee with a view of the river, 142 likes. Raphael glances at his bedroom window. The view is a grey building and a streetlight. He taps like. He doesn't know why. It's automatic. He gets up, walks to the bathroom, brushes his teeth while looking at the mirror, but not really looking at himself. It's that empty stare of someone running through a mental list. Things he needs to do, things he didn't do, things others have already done that he hasn't. He makes coffee. The machine hums. While he waits, he opens WhatsApp. The group chat is quiet now, but there's a direct message from Carla, a co-worker. Hey Raphael, I saw the South team delivered their project Friday. It looks amazing, right? We're still pretty behind LOL. The LOL at the end is supposed to make it light. It doesn't. Raphael types, hey Carla, we'll get there. Deletes it. Types, yeah, it turned out great. Deletes it. He sends a thumbs up emoji. Enough to not have to say anything. He sits down for breakfast. Toast, butter, coffee. He opens his laptop, not to work, to procrastinate by opening YouTube first. The algorithm knows him. A video appears, how this 28-year-old makes 10K a month working from home. Raphael doesn't want to watch. He clicks. 4 minutes later, he closes it. The guy is 28. Raphael is 32. He opens the report. The cursor blinks. A blank paragraph. He knows what to write. He knows the format. He knows the data. But for some reason, a reason he would call lack of focus if anyone asked, he doesn't start. He just watches the cursor, then opens LinkedIn again. This is Raphael's morning. Not every morning, but enough of them. 3 out of 5 weekdays, sometimes 4. At 10 a.m., he's in a video meeting, camera on, button-down shirt on top, sweatshirt below, the remote work uniform. His manager is talking about quarterly targets. Raphael is physically present. Mentally, he's stuck in a loop. The loop started with LinkedIn earlier, and it hasn't turned off. It works like this. He thinks about Marcos, about how Marcos became a senior manager. He tries to reconstruct the path. What decisions did Marcos make that he didn't? What opportunities did he miss? Then the loop expands. It's not just Marcos. It's the cousin who started a company, the college friend doing a PhD in Paris, the 28-year-old influencer making money online. A list that never ends, because the internet is infinite and there will always be someone doing something more impressive than what you're doing right now. His manager asks, Raphael, what do you think about this target? Raphael blinks, returns. I think it's challenging but achievable, he says, because that answer always works. The manager nods. The meeting moves on. But inside, Raphael just added another mark against himself. He was distracted. Another sign he's not where he should be. Noon. Raphael makes lunch. A quick omelette. He eats standing at the counter, phone beside him. He opens Instagram out of habit. Scrolls. Gym photo. Travel photo. A baby. He smiles for a second, genuinely. Then a job promotion post. Excited to announce I'm stepping into my new role as director of... He stops. Reads, 29 years old, director. Raphael is 32 and anxious about a senior analyst target. He closes Instagram, finishes eating, washes the plate. And right there, between washing the dish and sitting back down, there's 1 second where Raphael is alone with himself. No screen, no active comparison, nothing. And what shows up in that second isn't relief. It's exhaustion, a deep exhaustion, not from work, from spending the whole day measuring distances no one asked him to measure. He doesn't realize he's tired of that. He just feels tired. In the afternoon, Raphael finally writes the report. Not because the anxiety is gone, it isn't, but because the deadline is tomorrow, and the discomfort of the deadline finally outweighs the discomfort of starting. He writes well. He always writes well. 2 hours later, it's done. Solid, clear, good work. He rereads it, thinks, it's okay, not, this is good. There's a huge difference between those two thoughts. This is good is an evaluation. It's okay is a comparison against a standard he'll never reach, because the standard is always what someone else did better. He sends the report, closes the laptop. 4:20 p.m. He walks to the window, looks at the grey building and the streetlight, picks up his phone, opens Instagram, and it all starts again. At 11 p.m., Raphael is lying in bed. Lights off. He should be sleeping. He has an 8 a.m. meeting, but the phone is in his hand. He's on a profile, not someone he knows. A content creator he's followed for months. A guy who talks about financial freedom and lifestyle. The guy is on a beach. Relaxed smile. The caption reads, 3 years ago, I was stuck in a job that suffocated me. Today I choose where I work, when I work, and with whom I work. It all starts with a decision. Raphael stares at the ceiling, thinks, 3 years. He does the math. In 3 years, he'll be 35. What will he have in 3 years? Will he still be writing the same reports, looking out the same window at the same grey building? The tightness arrives, that specific tightness, not sharp pain, just pressure, like a flat hand pressing gently into the center of his chest. Raphael knows this feeling. It shows up more at night. He takes a few deep breaths. The pressure eases a little. He places the phone on the nightstand, closes his eyes. It takes him 40 minutes to fall asleep. Tomorrow will be almost the same. Raphael isn't an extreme case. He's not in a clinical crisis. He goes to work. He delivers his projects. He has friends. He has a social life. From the outside, Raphael looks fine. And that's exactly what makes this pattern so dangerous. It disguises itself as normal life, but what's happening inside Raphael is an alarm, a quiet alarm, constant, low intensity, and if it isn't recognized, it slowly gets louder, louder, until it turns into real insomnia. Until it turns into an anxiety attack on a random weekday for no clear reason, until it becomes that feeling that your entire life is a lesser version of other people's lives. I want to show you 3 moments where this alarm tends to show up, and there's a good chance you'll recognize at least one of them. The first is Sunday afternoon. You know that window between about 3 and 6 p.m. on a Sunday, when the weekend is already over, but the week hasn't started yet. For a lot of people, this is the most anxious time of the week, and part of that anxiety comes from comparison. You spent the weekend seeing what everyone else did, trips, workouts, family time, achievements, and now on Sunday afternoon, your mind starts doing a quiet inventory. Did I do enough this weekend? Did I use my time the right way? It looks like everyone else did more. These thoughts don't show up in clear sentences. They show up as a vague restlessness, a not knowing what to do feeling. an inability to relax even when nothing urgent is happening. Because your nervous system has learned to associate rest with falling behind. The second moment is the hollowed-out achievement. You accomplish something, anything, a promotion, a finished project, a goal you hit, a body that's getting healthier, a relationship that's improving. In the moment you achieve it, there's a spark of joy, but it doesn't last. Almost immediately context appears, but they had this 2 years ago. But she did it faster than me. But this is still far from where I should be. The achievement isn't celebrated. It's instantly placed inside a comparison timeline where it suddenly looks small. And the person who worked for it can't understand why they don't feel good, even after getting what they wanted. There's a psychological term for this. But in simple language, it's this. You can't land, you never land. You reach a point, and you're already looking at the next point that someone else has passed. The third moment is when the body speaks. Chronic comparison has a physical address. It doesn't live only in the mind, it lives in the body. Most often it shows up in the chest, that pressure Raphael felt at night, or in the stomach, that hollow or heavy feeling that appears for no clear reason. Or in the right shoulder, tense without you knowing since when. Or in the jaw, clenched while you scroll. The body is keeping the record. Your body doesn't know you're looking at someone's Instagram profile. Your body only knows you're in a state of threat, because comparison activates, neurologically, the same system that turns on when you feel judged, evaluated, or at risk of being excluded. And for a human being whose brain evolved in tribes where exclusion meant death, this isn't trivial. It's survival. Your brain cannot clearly distinguish between this person has more followers than me, and this person will survive, and I won't. They press the same internal button, and when that button stays pressed for hours a day, for years, the result is a nervous system that no longer knows how to relax, one that stays in evaluation mode, one that can't simply exist without measuring itself. And this is where anxiety enters. Not as the cause, but as the symptom. The anxiety you feel, the tightness in Raphael's chest, the pressure you might recognize in your own body, is not a character flaw. It's not weakness. It's the predictable result of a pattern that was installed long before you ever had a choice in it. Which brings us to the next part, because we need to talk about where this pattern actually began. Comparison has a name, and when you name something, it starts to lose its power. Its name is this: the child who wasn't enough. You didn't invent comparison. It was taught to you, and it was taught very early, before you had the words to question what was happening. Let me take you back for a moment. Raphael is 8 years old. He's sitting at the dinner table with his parents. There's a math test in his backpack. He got a 75. For him, it took real effort. He studied. He struggled with 2 questions. He got one of them right. 75. His dad picks up the test, looks at it. 75. Sandra's son got 100 on this. You need to try harder, Raphael. His mom doesn't disagree. She says, "You're smart. You can do better than this." They meant to motivate him. That was the intention. But what Raphael's brain recorded, what an 8-year-old brain that can't yet separate intention from impact actually recorded, was this: my effort isn't enough. There's always someone better. I have to compare myself to know if I'm okay. He didn't write this down. He didn't keep a diary, but his nervous system encoded it as an emotional survival rule. To know if you're safe, look at others. If you're ahead, you can relax. If you're behind, you must push harder. This is where the shadow begins. The shadow, in simple terms, is the part of you that got pushed down. Not because it was bad, but because you learned it wasn't welcome. In the case of comparison, what got pushed down was your inner authority. The ability to say, I know what I feel. I know what I did. I can evaluate my own effort without needing an outside ruler. Every small child has this naturally. A 3-year-old who builds something with blocks doesn't compare it to another child's tower. They're simply proud of their own. That's inner authority, raw, natural, unconditioned. But slowly, Through grades, comparisons with cousins, conditional praise, phrases like, "Your brother already knows this. When I was your age, I was..." The child learns something else. External evaluation is more real than internal experience. That joy in an achievement isn't valid on its own. It must first pass through comparison. And that child grows up, becomes an adult, becomes Raphael, becomes you, and carries deep in the operating system a rule that was never questioned, because it was installed before questioning was possible. So when you open LinkedIn and feel that tightness, it isn't LinkedIn hurting you. It's the 8-year-old inside still waiting for the test to be judged, still measuring worth against someone else's score. This isn't a metaphor. This is literally how the mind works. The past doesn't disappear. It stays, encoded in response patterns that activate automatically whenever the present resembles the original condition. And the shadow doesn't only come from critical parents. It can form in many ways. A highly competitive school where rankings were public. A friend group where worth meant achievement. A relationship where you were constantly compared to someone else. Or simply the cultural message, from media, from ads, from everywhere, that existing is not enough. That you must reach a certain level before you deserve to rest. The shadow has many faces, but the core belief is always the same. My value is relative, not absolute. It depends on where I stand in comparison. And as long as that belief operates in the dark, as long as you don't see it, don't name it, don't understand where it came from, it keeps making decisions for you. It keeps opening LinkedIn. It keeps hollowing out your wins. It keeps your nervous system in a constant state of alert. But now, you're looking at it, and it knows it's being seen. There's an archetype that lives inside people who struggle with chronic comparison. Jung would call it a complex. I'm going to call it a character, because it's easier to see that way. This character has a name, the waiting adult. The waiting adult is the part of you that lives in a constant state of suspension, always waiting to arrive somewhere, before you're allowed to rest, before you're allowed to feel proud, before you're allowed to simply exist. He isn't living in the present. He's calculating distance, the distance between where you are and where you should be, based on other people's maps. The waiting adult can't enjoy an achievement because he's already looking at the next step. He can't rest without feeling like he's wasting time. He can't be fully present in a conversation because part of his mind is quietly taking inventory. Where am I in life compared to everyone else? He's exhausted, but he doesn't stop. Because to him, stopping means falling behind. First seen with the waiting adult, it's Raphael's 30th birthday. Small gathering, his apartment, about 20 friends, there's cake, music, people he genuinely likes. At one point, a friend raises a glass. To Raphael turning 30, may the next decade be even better. Everyone cheers. Everyone smiles. Raphael smiles too. On the outside, it's real. Inside, he's doing the math. 30 years old. What does he actually have at 30? The mental list starts. Apartment, rented, not owned. Job, stable, but not what he wanted. Relationship, ended 8 months ago. Body, could be in better shape. Savings, almost none. In the middle of his own birthday party, the waiting adult is auditing Raphael's life and failing him. The party was good. The night was real. The friends were real. But the waiting adult wasn't at the party. He was in an imaginary office doing a performance review. Second scene with the waiting adult. It's Sunday morning. Raphael is drinking coffee, nothing urgent, sunlight coming through the window. It's a genuinely good moment. Quiet, calm, no pressure. For a brief second, he feels something close to peace. And then the waiting adult wakes up. You're just sitting here drinking coffee. Marcos is working on his project. That guy online wakes up at 5 a.m. You're wasting time. The peaceful moment lasts less than 30 seconds. Raphael reaches for his phone. The waiting adult is not an enemy. This part is important. He was created for a reason. He was meant to protect you, to keep you moving, to make sure you wouldn't fall behind. In an environment where comparison defined your worth, like Raphael's dinner table at 8 years old. This character was necessary. He helped you survive emotionally in a world that demanded it. The problem is, you grew up, and he didn't. He still thinks you're 8. He still thinks Sandra's son is an existential threat. He still believes that stopping equals failure. And the first part of the work, before any techniques, before any 30-day practice, is simply to recognize him, to give him a face, maybe even a name. Because the moment you can observe the waiting adult, instead of being the waiting adult, something begins to shift. You don't eliminate him. You integrate him. You understand him. And slowly, you stop letting him drive the car. Look at this closely, because there's a trap almost everyone falls into when they decide to stop comparing. And the trap is subtle enough to feel like a solution. It's called inverted comparison. You decide to stop looking at people who seem ahead of you, so you start looking at people who seem behind you. You place yourself in spaces where you're the most advanced, the most experienced, the one who has more, and for a few days, maybe a few weeks, you feel better. The tightness in your chest softens. You think, it worked. It didn't work. You only changed the direction of the comparison. The mechanism is still intact. You're still using other people as the thermometer of your worth. You just position the thermometer where the reading feels more comfortable. The problem shows up the first time someone in that new space grows faster than you. The first time someone who was behind you moves ahead. And when that happens, the system comes back full force, because now it's not just comparison. There's also betrayal. This was supposed to be where I was safe. This was supposed to be my place. The second trap is isolation as a solution. I'll delete social media. Leave the groups, stop following the market, keep to myself. And at first, there really is relief. Your nervous system gets a break. But then something else appears, an information vacuum. And an anxious mind doesn't tolerate a vacuum. It fills it with imagination. How much are people growing while I'm not looking? Am I missing opportunities? When I go back, will I find out I've fallen behind in a way I can't even measure? Isolation without inner work doesn't heal, it postpones. The third trap, and this one is the most cruel, is premature spiritualization. You learn about shadow work, you discover the shadow, you recognize the waiting adult, and then you use that knowledge to compare in a new way. I'm more evolved than people who still compare themselves on social media. Yes, that happens. I'm telling you this now before you get there. Because the way out of comparison isn't around it, it's through it, through the work. And that is what comes next. 30 days, not to heal you, to create a new pattern, to train your nervous system in a different direction. Just like you don't strengthen a muscle by thinking about it, you strengthen it by repeating a movement. You don't dissolve chronic comparison by having insights about it. You dissolve it by practicing the opposite movement, day after day. And the opposite of comparison is not indifference. It's not caring. The opposite is internal orientation, the ability to use your own experience, your own values, your own path as your primary reference point. That doesn't mean ignoring the world. It means stopping using the world as a mirror of your worth. So here is the practice. Week 1, observation without judgment, days 1 through 7. The goal this week is not to change anything. It's simply to see clearly and without cruelty. Days 1 to 3, tracking comparison. You'll carry a small notebook or use the Notes app on your phone. Every time you notice yourself comparing, you record it. No analysis, just record. Simple format, time, context, who you compared yourself to and what you felt in your body. Example, 2:30 p.m., LinkedIn, former classmate, tight chest. That's it. No judgment, no what's wrong with me, just observation. Most people discover here that they compare themselves 17, 20, 25 times a day, and each comparison, even the small ones, drops a tiny alarm signal into the nervous system. Add them together and suddenly you understand why you feel exhausted at 7 p.m., even without physical effort. Days 4 and 5, mapping triggers. Look at your notes. Where do the comparisons cluster? What time of day? What platform? What kinds of situations activate it most? Does LinkedIn trigger something different than Instagram? There are no right answers, only mapping. And mapping is power, because once you know where the minefield is, you stop walking through it with your eyes closed. Days 6 and 7, the 2-second pause. You're not trying to eliminate comparison yet. You're just introducing space between the trigger and the spiral. 2 seconds. When you notice the loop starting, phone in hand, opening someone's profile, pause. Take one breath, not necessarily to stop yourself, just to create a millimeter of awareness between the automatic and the voluntary. 2 seconds. That's where all neuroplasticity begins. Week 2. The right question. Days 8 through 14. Now you add a tool that looks simple, but changes everything. The question of internal orientation. Whenever you catch yourself using someone else as a ruler, you ask a different question. Not, how am I doing compared to them? But, what actually matters to me? And it has to be specific, concrete, grounded. Days 8 to 10. Building your criteria. Sit with your notebook. Write by hand, not typing. Handwriting slows you down, and here, slow is your ally. Write 3 answers for each of these. Where do I want to grow in the next 12 months? Not where others are growing. You. What kind of person do I want to be a year from now? Not status. Character. How you relate. What have I done in the last 6 months that I'm genuinely proud of, even if no one knows about it? These lists become your internal reference system, your own milestones. Days 11 to 14, using the question in real time. Now you use those criteria when comparison shows up. Not to suppress it, to redirect it. Okay, they have a bigger title, but what matters to me? I said I want to grow technically this year. Am I doing that? What can I do this week that moves me in that direction? This isn't forced positivity, it's focus redirection. You're training your brain to respond to comparison with a useful question instead of a useless spiral. Week 3, meeting the child. Days 15 through 21. This week is the most delicate and the most powerful. Days 15 to 17, the letter. You'll write a letter to yourself, but to your 8-year-old self, or 10, or 12. The version of you who first learned that worth depended on comparison. It doesn't need to be poetic, just honest. Say what that child needed to hear back then but didn't. Maybe something like, you don't need to be Sandra's son. You don't need a perfect score. 75 earned with real effort matters. Your effort counts. You count. When you write this, something moves. Sometimes tears, sometimes anger, sometimes relief. Let whatever comes, come. Days 18 to 21. Compassionate presence. This week, when comparison appears, you do something new. Instead of just observing or redirecting, you ask, which part of me feels this right now? The adult or the child? And when you see it's the child, the one still waiting for the test to be judged, you respond differently, with the same compassion you used in the letter. I know you're afraid of not being enough. I understand, but I'm the adult now, and I'm telling you, you are enough. We're okay. It won't feel natural at first, or even the 5th time, but repetition creates a new response pattern. Week 4. The new identity. Days 22 through 30. This week isn't about learning something new. It's about consolidating what you've built and beginning to form the identity of someone who relates differently to their own worth. Days 22 to 25. Evidence journaling. Each day, write down 3 pieces of evidence that you are becoming who you want to be. Not big achievements, small, real evidence. I finished something before opening my phone. I helped someone without calculating a benefit. I felt proud of something I did without needing anyone to see. These build what psychology calls self-efficacy, belief based on lived experience that you are capable, not based on comparison, based on your own behavior. Days 26 to 28, recalibrating your criteria. Return to the lists from week 2. What has changed? What still feels true? What needs adjusting? You're no longer using someone else's ruler, you're calibrating your own. Days 29 and 30, a personal ritual. This might feel symbolic, but symbolism works. Every human culture uses it for a reason. On day 29 or 30, create a small ritual. Write something like, "I don't need comparison to know who I am," and burn it, tear it, throw it away, whatever feels right. Not to declare an ending, but to mark a shift, to acknowledge that something changed, that the person who reaches day 31 is not exactly the same as the person who started on day 1. Let me show you what this looks like in real, ordinary life. It starts small, 3 lines on a page. On day 23 of the practice, Raphael wakes up. He grabs his phone, opens LinkedIn out of pure reflex. The reflex is still there. It didn't disappear. He sees Marcus's profile, and he feels that familiar tightness in his chest. But this time, something different happens. Before the spiral can start, he pauses. 2 seconds. He takes one breath. Then he reaches for the little notebook on his nightstand. It's been there since week 1, and he writes 3 lines. "Yesterday, I finished my report 2 hours early. I stayed focused and didn't check my phone for 90 minutes. That's evidence I'm building the discipline I want." 3 lines, 45 seconds. But what just happened is bigger than it looks. Instead of responding to the LinkedIn trigger with a comparison spiral, Raphael responded with an internal anchor. He used data from his own behavior to counter the external data that was setting off the alarm. The tightness in his chest doesn't vanish right away, but it softens, and he notices that it softens, and that, by itself, becomes another piece of evidence. Something that goes into the journal, small, real, repeatable. This is how patterns actually change, not through one dramatic insight, but through 45 seconds with a notebook, repeated enough times to carve a new groove in the nervous system. And what Raphael is doing in those 3 lines isn't trying to convince himself he's good enough. He's collecting evidence that he is becoming the person he wants to be. That's a huge difference. Convincing is fragile. The next comparison can knock it down. Evidence is solid. It happened. It's recorded. It's real. 3 lines a day, 30 days, 90 lines. 90 pieces of proof that you exist outside of comparison. You made it all the way here. That's not a small thing. Most people close a long video before the end, especially when the video asks them to look at themselves honestly. But you stayed. That by itself is already evidence. So let's gather what you're taking with you. You saw that chronic comparison isn't a lack of discipline. It's a pattern that got installed early, back when you learned that your value was relative, that it depended on where you stood on someone else's scale. You met the waiting adult, that tired part of you that never really lands, always calculating distance, always turning every achievement into the starting line for the next race. You saw the traps, the inverted comparison, isolation without inner work, spiritualizing too early. And now you have a practice, 30 days, concrete, gradual, grounded in real behavior, not in motivation that fades after 3 days. The shadow has a name now, and once something has a name, it loses some of its power. But what comes after naming is the work. And the work doesn't start on Monday. It doesn't start when you feel ready. It doesn't start when life gets easier. It starts today, with a small notebook, with a 2-second pause, with 3 lines before you go to sleep. And if something in this video felt real to you, I want to ask one thing. Share it with someone you know needs to hear this, not for the algorithm, but because that person deserves to know that what they feel has a name, has a history, and has a way out. And if you want to keep doing this work, this channel is a place for that. We don't do weekend motivation here. We do real work, rooted in real psychology, with respect for how complex it is to be human. I'll see you in the next video.